With me is John Whitaker, the Executive Director of the Conservation Districts of Iowa. To his left is Susan Kozak, Division Director of the Iowa Department of Ag for the Division of Soil Conservation. And to my right is Kurt Simon, State Conservationist for the USDA NRCS.
Thank you, Tim. For more than 80 years, the Natural Resources Conservation Service has been a pioneer in conservation, working with landowners, local and state governments, and other federal agencies to maintain healthy and productive working soils. The creation of the Soil Conservation Service represented the culmination of efforts of Hugh Hammond Bennett, known as the father of soil conservation, and the first chief of SCS to awaken the public concern for the problem of soil erosion. Simultaneously, there was a movement across the United States to form soil and water conservation districts to provide that local influence on the conservation efforts. And with that, we have with us John Whitaker with Conservation Districts of Iowa.
Almost 75 years ago, the Iowa Association of Soil Conservation Commissioners was formed. We call ourselves CDI, which you already knew that. But you think back for that almost 75 years, there was research going on soil conservation practices. What were the best practices? The conservation practices of that day, one of the tools was a plow. Other tools that they were looking at and how to manage were cover crops. And over that 75 years, the plows have been parked and the cover crops need to be enhanced. So times change, agreements must change, and with that in mind, here's Tim Palmer with the NACD, Iowa's own Tim Palmer, the national president of NACD.
In 1936, President Roosevelt offered to the governors of all states a standard state district act, language that would create local conservation districts. 22 states passed laws that first year. In 1937, the first state to adopt the language was Arkansas, and the first conservation district was formed in North Carolina by Brown Creek SWCD. By mid-1945, all 48 states had passed enabling legislation. The Memorandum of Agreement that conservation districts across the country are signing now are a continuation of agreements that have been in place since SWCDs and NRCS became partners to address local resource concerns. Although previous agreements have been between the state conservationists and the local conservation districts, this new MOA includes the State Conservation Agency as a primary partner in the protection and enhancement of the state's lands, whether rural or urban. It contains the basic language that, in so many words, states that SWCDs, state conservation agencies, and the NRCS will work together to make things better. The value of this core partnership is immeasurable. With the addition of other partners that districts rely upon to address resource concerns, we continue to maintain productivity, improve water quality, restore habitat, and mitigate the effects of weather now and for the future.
So the process is going to work this way. In January, you will receive a new Memorandum of Agreement. That Memorandum of Agreement will already be signed by the officials at the Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship. You will sign it in an official meeting. It takes board action to do this, and send it back to NRCS here in Des Moines. After the process of the Memorandums of Agreement are completed by the end of February, we will send out the new cooperative agreements. Those cooperative agreements will talk about the resource sharing that we do, use of vehicles, office space, equipment, and things like that that is done to get in the partnership to get conservation on the land. As in anything, times change, but partnerships don't necessarily change. All we're doing with this is enhancing the partnership that has been so successful in conservation practices, and we really appreciate your help. That partnership has been with the NRCS and the Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship, and so we have Susan Kozak here to speak about that partnership. Susan?
We're very lucky here in Iowa to enjoy a partnership between the state, federal, and local partners. We work very closely together, we're always communicating, and this agreement just helps us formalize that structure so that we can continue the partnership. We all have the same goal of getting more conservation and water quality improvement practices on the landscape, so this just helps us work together better.
Thank you. We're happy to be working together as partners, continuing the relationships that have been going on for nearly 80 years with conservation districts and the NRCS, USDA, and other partners such as the Iowa Division of Conservation. If you need more information, please feel free to visit the NACD website at www.nacdnet.org.